Hey guys, welcome back to my second video. I wasn't originally going to make this video until this comment was posted on my last video, and that really helped me realize that big ships are going to be able to fit through Pyro. We already know this because they do, as the comment states, the Idris comes out of it. But yeah, today I'm here to talk about what multi-crew ships I think is going to work well on Pyro. But first, let's talk about Pyro's background a little more since I kind of skipped that on last video. So, Pyro was discovered by a company called Pyrotechnic Amalgamated, hence the name Pyro, in 2493. They were the people to actually build Ruin Station, which is around Pyro 6, according to lore, if you don't know that. And, obviously at first it wasn't called Ruin Station, but according to lore, it's apparently one of the reasons that brought them down, because it was just a huge money sink to just dump into this station. Fun little lore story here. In 2563, workers in mines on, I believe, Pyro 3 it was, started hearing this voice that told them, leave or be crushed. This voice would later be called the Prophet of Pyro, and it played a huge role in one of the gangs, the Abyss. The ruler of that gang heard the voice tell them, I think it was like leader of Ruin, which, leader of Ruin Station, which caused them to rile a bunch of other gangs into overthrowing and taking over Ruin Station, which just further cemented, the voice is Pyro as a semi-divine figure almost throughout the Pyro system. So not only is Pyro completely lawless and just gonna be a mess, but now we have this weird voice which I actually didn't know about while making my first video, so that was really fun to learn about. Disclaimer though, before I start talking about ships, is I'm not gonna go and discuss ships that currently aren't in the game, but I will quickly list off the ships that aren't in the game that I think will be good to multi-crew. These ships are the Anvil Liberator, the Drake Kraken, or to be fair, any capital class ship, the Banu Merchantman, the RSI Galaxy, the RSI Polaris, the RSI Perseus, the Misk Odyssey, and the Misk Endeavor. And I do know that you can technically fly the Idris in-game right now if you were to steal it, but I don't consider that to be viable, as getting out of it requires you to glitch yourself back into it. It's hard to get, and we also don't really know the specifications on it, so maybe its jump drive isn't a good enough one currently. But I just wanted to throw that out so people weren't like, oh, why don't you add the Idris? Because you can fly it, but it's not viable to fly. So with that out of the way, here are the ships that I think are going to be good for bigger crews. We have the Origin 890 Jump, the Origin 600i, the Anvil Carrack, and any Crusader Starlifter series, this being the C2, the A2, and the M2. And then these last two I'm kind of throwing in because they will be good if you want to do specific gameplay, but those are the Misk Starfarer and the Aegis Hammerhead. And I do know there's people who've been saying oh, the Hull series ships are going to be good because they have a lot of quantum fuel, but I don't think they're going to be that good because they can't defend themselves well, and being a cargo hauler, I don't foresee you wanting to carry that much cargo around Pyro, unless of course you have a bunch of friends who can help defend you. So let's first talk about the Starfarer. I do think the Starfarer is going to be good in Pyro, as it will literally be necessary to fuel up other ships, but I think it might actually be prone to getting pirated. I can foresee people requesting fuel, be like, hey, I need a refuel, and then you showing up and them just jumping you. So you're probably gonna have to be careful of that. It doesn't have as many of the amenities as some of the other ships on the list, particularly like a little bay to land other ships in, or a med bed, which I will talk about later. Next, we have the Hammerhead. I do think this is going to be decent in Pyro if all you care about is combat, because, you know, of course it's a combat ship. It can defend itself pretty well, and it has enough, a big enough jump drive and enough quantum fuel to get around the system. At least I believe it will. Obviously, I don't know for sure. But it's also, as I said, it can only really do combat, and it's lacking the amenities such as mainly being a medical bed. Alright, with those two ships out of the way, let's talk about the ships that I really think are going to be good in Pyro. First, we have the Carrack, which, you know, is kind of a no-brainer. When everybody thinks of exploration, they think of the Carrack, and, you know, it's just, that's what it's built for. You know, obviously it being an exploration ship, it has plenty of fuel to travel around travel around Pyro. It has a good amount of cargo, more than the 890 jump actually. Has solid amount of scanners, but in my opinion, what really makes this useful in Pyro is the fact that it has a tier 3 medical bed. This medical bed will allow you to, you know, heal yourself and even respawn on the ship. And a little extra benefit of the med bed, as for now, I don't know if they'll fix this or change it when Pyro comes out, but for now, it acts as an infinite water and food source, because, you know, if you lie down in the med bed, it replenishes that. And yes, I am aware of the fact that those replenished, like, food and water depletes quicker than if you were to just, like, drink a normal bottle of water and, like, eat a hot dog in game. But, you know, it's really not a huge deal having to constantly top up, and if you don't have other food, it will keep you alive, so it does the job enough. It also has that hanger on the top of the ship, which is supposed to fit a Pisces, although if it was me, I wouldn't put the Pisces in it. I would see how many Merlins I could fit in this ship, because the Carrack doesn't have the greatest firepower. Yes, it has a lot of shields, so you can probably jump out of situations. But, you know, if someone had a Mantis and is quantum blocking you, or any other ship that can quantum block, like the Antares, you're eventually probably going to die in it, because it's just slow. It doesn't have, as I said, that much firepower. So if you have these little snub fighters that pop out, I think that will really help your survivability in Pyro. Next, we have the 890 jump, and it's funny, I don't frequently see this ship being brought up in discussions for Pyro, yet in my opinion, I think it's actually going to be the best ship in Pyro, once again, for bigger crews of people. It does have less quantum fuel than the Carrack, only having one large size fuel tank, where the Carrack has two, but that should be plenty of fuel to get around Pyro. And similar to the Carrack, it also has this tier 3 med bed, which, for the reasons mentioned before, is going to be, in my opinion, super useful in Pyro. But in my opinion, where this ship really stands out as being better than the Carrack, other than it being an Origin, as we know I love Origin ships, but it has a much bigger like docking bay within it, and you can easily fit a couple arrows in this thing, or gladiuses. I would take arrows just because they take up less space, so you can cram more. And, you know, you could still just go with a absolute ton of Merlins, but I would actually go with arrows in this thing, because the arrows having quantum drives over the Merlins will allow the arrows to go ahead little distances, that is, to scout before you take this ship. So, for example, if you need to go refuel, or, you know, grab some supplies at that central station, you can stop jumping a little before you reach it, send the arrows out, and scout. And that way, if there is like a group of pirates who are quantum blocking around the station, you are only gonna lose an arrow instead of losing your main ship. which, you know, the Carrack won't be able to do because it's gonna, unless you have the Pisces in the Carrack. But once and again, I wouldn't do the Pisces just because it's not enough firepower in my opinion. Yeah, so the next ship we have is the 600i. This ship, I would say it's perfect for like 2 to 3 people. You know, ideally, in my opinion, if you're multi-crewing, you would want to be in either the 890 jump or the Carrack. But I just wanted to add these ships in because I didn't talk about them in my last video because that was dedicated just to solo pilots. And the way I treat this ship is it's basically a smaller 890 jump. It does have a very respectable amount of firepower. I often see people doing ERTs in this ship, and you know, that's great. It doesn't have a medbed though, which, I mean, hopefully, I know it's getting a rework soon. Hopefully they add maybe like a tier 2 medbed, so you know, it wouldn't be able to allow you to respawn, but it could still like fix you up and give you that food and water as mentioned before. But for 2 people, 2 to 3, I think this ship will really shine because it has good amount of scanners because it is an exploration ship, unlike the 890 jump, which is more of like a touring ship. But you know, so it can go far. It has a good amount of firepower, decent shields, and hopefully with this rework it gets a medbed because that would really just bump it up a notch in my opinion. And finally we have the Starlifter series, which, funny thing, I originally wasn't even gonna put the Starlifter in this video, but you know, after seeing a Reddit post of, I think someone managed to fit 9 Merlins in this thing comfortably. Like, it was cramped, but it wasn't like undoable, you know. It was like you can definitely replicate putting them back in. And flying around with my friend Ducks for All, he used to have one of these. This thing is fast. I did not realize just how fast this ship was until I was, you know, around Jumptown. I'm flying in my Gladius, which is obviously a fast ship, and he's in the sea too. And I'm like, wait a minute, dude, I'm barely catching you in atmo right now. So this thing, the reason I see it being decent is I could see you doing some funny, almost reverse piracy in this, as it is normally considered cargo haulers. It might be a target for pirates to be like, oh yeah, let's pull out the C2. But it's still quick, has a lot of quantum fuel, and if you load up those Merlins, I see this being a blast. Just you and your friends swarming out of this thing in Merlins. Like, dude, if I was a pirate, I would honestly crap myself there. Like, I don't know what I would do if I attacked a C2 thinking it was full of goods and then just tons of Merlins came flying out. That would just be funny. And, you know, it's pretty big, so you can fit a lot of ground vehicles if you want to do that more ground exploration. Has the quantum fuel. Yeah, this is a weird ship. It's kind of like a last edition ship where I would mainly, similar to the 600i, I would 2 to 3 person crew it if you have this ship and not a 600i. But I also could see this being the most fun too, as I said earlier, just reverse pirate, just mess around, have a bunch of Merlins in it, which it's good timing of me making this video because today is the last day of the free fly. And if you don't know, if you refer a friend and they use your referral code, both you and them, this being if the friend spends $40 or more in the game, you both get a free Merlin to fly around. So, a decent amount of people should already have these Merlins. Anyways, that just wraps up my thoughts. If you notice, though, that my audio is much better than last video, that's because I'm using a new mic. I will quickly flash up on screen photos of my old mic versus a new mic. And I actually got this mic gifted to me from my friend Elder Relic. He's a really great guy. He has a hilarious Boston accent. I'm going to link his Discord and YouTube channel down below. And if you want to discuss anything with me or him, he's great at PvP. He's been teaching me. Just feel free to join the Discord. He's super welcoming. He's, as I said, great accent. I love it. Super nice guy. I could not recommend any more to join his server if you're into PvP especially. He is one of the best pilots I've ever seen. I'm a decent pilot. I'd say definitely better than the average PU pilot, but he mops the floor with me. I've been working on trying to kill him in 2 lives, and I'm getting close, but it's crazy to think that I'm just trying to work on killing him in 2 lives. Anyways, that probably wraps up the video. As I said, feel free to join the Discord, and I hope you guys all have a good day.